The call 2021 of the Life Clean Energy Transition program includes a topic on creating the conditions for a global improvement of smart readiness of European buildings, which I will be presenting. My name is Pierre-Antoine Vermon. I am project advisor at CINEA. The energy, the EPBD and the renovation wave have the same objectives, the same policy objective, which is to support smart technologies that ensure that buildings operate efficiently, that they can interact with the building occupants and with the building's environment. So since the EPBD review was finalized in 2018, the Commission has been developing a smart readiness indicator for buildings with a view to raise awareness on the current degree of smartness of buildings and on potential improvements to that level of smartness. It is this smart readiness indicator is an optional scheme, which the member states are free to decide to implement or not. So at the end of 2020, the Commission has finished its work in clarifying how the scheme should be implemented through an implementing regulation, establishing the SRI, and through a delegated act detailing the technical modalities of that implementation. And so this backbone of the SRI is now in force since January 2021. So the next phase now is for member states to implement or not that scheme. And this is where this topic comes into play. So if you have followed, the scheme is optional, but the way to implement it is binding. It is the same framework for all member states that will decide to implement it. So the objectives, which you can see on these slides, are very different in nature. So the topic focuses on the successful implementation of the SRI in member states, so by public authorities. It's successful market uptake. So here we're looking at the private sectors and industry. The actual rollout of ICT and smart ready technologies in buildings, which is our ultimate goal, of course, and the ultimate objective of the SRI, ensuring a high level of protection of privacy and cyber security in smart buildings. And of course, to reduce energy consumption linked to the use of digital technologies. Two important recommendations for proponents interested with submitting under this topic are, first of all, one linked to the variety of the actions supported under this topic. So do not focus on covering all the scope because it is very challenging. Rather focus on the quality and credibility of the measures that can help addressing one or several of these points, and this will already be very significant. A second point is that despite the technological focus of this topic, of part of this topic, research and innovation activities are not the focus of this topic. The focus is to spread, to assess and to spread the use of smart energy technologies in buildings in order to make them more energy performant, and also to contribute to help public measures that support that same objective. So in respect to these objectives, the scope is very much aligned with those. So now that the framework is in place, the topic intends to support, I've said it, the SRI implementation in member states. So we are calling for proposals that would help supporting the integration of this backbone of the SRI to national specificities, or rather the opposite, integration of national specificities to this framework. So building types, because the buildings are not the same in every part of Europe, the linking the applicable certification schemes in force in different member states, and to be clear, we would be supporting the technical definition, the technical assessments that would be leading to this. We would be supporting the promotion of the SRI, promotion activities, and also networking within the sectors, within to make this adoption successful. We are also calling for actions that will go beyond the scheme. So that might be asking a lot now, but perhaps where in a few years you can see a greater level of ambition. For example, through making the scheme mandatory. And we also support proposals that would focus on integrating the SRI with the current legal framework on buildings, for example, integration with energy performance certificates. So that was for the public implementation, but we are also calling for proposals that would support the SRI uptake by the market. So first of all, through priorities of public investment schemes in member states that relate to buildings, for example, public procurement rules. We would also support the development of best practices and showcasing of achievements of deploying the SRI and upgrading the smartness of buildings. In particular, focusing on local market players, and that's to say professional associations, real estate, etc. Something that will also be important to address will be to investigate the valuation of smartness, how much it adds to real estate assets that the buildings are, and which part of smartness specifically, and for which type of buildings, for residential houses, for commercial buildings, office buildings, and for which type of clients. You have individual owners, or perhaps for facility managers who have a clearer profit motive. We would also support actions focusing on the technological part of smart readiness. That's to say, the use of smart systems, smart technologies, and communications in buildings. So to be clear, we would support different kind of activities, deploying devices in buildings, but also actions leading to making existing devices that are already there smarter through software improvements, but also improvements in communications between the devices that consume, store, or produce energy. We would also call for an overview of interoperability and cybersecurity concerns among potential consumers, and the solutions that can be provided to address these issues, and the promotion of this result. Here, I want to clarify that by many respects, buildings are consumers of information technologies that are in use more horizontally. So a great part of this part here of this sub-challenge will consist in assessing the actual risks to interoperability and cybersecurity by the technologies, whether they exist or not, and what can be done. In a way, with a benchmarking approach, and maybe to feed this back to EU standardization activities. We are calling, like I said, under objectives for smartness that contributes to the energy performance of buildings. So here we are really calling for proposals linking smartness and energy performance. So one way to do it, to contribute to that, is to propose technology packages that contribute to improving the energy performance of buildings, including their smartness. Of course, it will depend on the type of buildings. You may have technology packages that rely a lot on smartness, for example, in buildings where it's difficult to modify the building envelope, for example, historical buildings that can be found in many European cities. We promote, I've said it already, but I want to repeat it, the energy monitoring in buildings and the linking of the SRI implementation with, I would say, the rest of building energy performance certification as it is in place in member states. So this is the scope. This was the scope of the actions that we are supporting, but what we want to achieve through that is summarized in this slide on impact. So we want successful and effective implementation of the smart readiness indicator in as many member states as possible. We would not like here to just support actions doing this, but also showcase their success, because quite many member states are still looking at the first experiments to decide on whether to adopt the smart readiness indicator or not. So so potential projects can have a real role to play in accelerating the adoption of the SRI in Europe. Another impact that we want is to sell the SRI to the construction, the real estate, and other sectors and other market players that form the ecosystem of the building sector in Europe. We also want to end up with technology and finance that has the potential to increase the so-called smart readiness rate of the European building stock, along with the renovation rate, which is a major policy objective of the renovation wave. And finally, one of our objectives, one of the impacts that will be important to demonstrate will be the increase in user acceptance of smart buildings. So the acceptance in terms of safety, that smart buildings can respect the privacy and the security of the data that are used through technology. More control and comfort for building occupants. Another impact is proved energy savings and financial savings from the use of smart technologies, and successful actions here, promising proposals, would be also those that allow to unlock investment in smarter buildings around Europe. I've provided a list of some relevant projects. So I don't know if I should go through them, but we have Interconnect, a major pilot on smart buildings, focusing very much on technology. We have projects mixing technology package for renovation and for smartness. So here I'm looking at P2 Endure and Step Up. We have here one action reviewing this technology and their potential. We are talking about Crave Zero, an action just finished recently, maybe a few months ago. In the list, you have several projects focusing on smart buildings using demand response, so TABD, Respond, yes, and other projects more specifically on improving the building smartness, the smartness of the EU building stock, the existing EU building stock through legacy. Through the smartening of legacy appliances, so DOMOS, RESCOV, VPP. And I will finish with UCERT, which is focusing on certification, including on smart readiness, which is an ongoing project, still ongoing. And finally, Smart Build for EU, which is the exchange initiative of the Commission within the smart building community, with which all projects will be very encouraged to participate. So with this, I would like to thank you and wish you good luck with your applications.